This presentation is about Arts Council's open access funding schemes, particularly project grants and developing your creative practice. I've spoken to some of you already. I know that some of you are aware of these. But it's a chance for you to find out if they're right for you and to ask any questions that you've got. This is me at the Banksy exhibition. I'm a relationship manager for the South West office, and I cover an area that goes from Cornwall all the way up to Gloucester, over to Hampshire and everything in between. And the reason I'm involved is because I'm the relationship manager for Chapel Arts, and I act as liaison between the two organisations. Quite often when I turn up at events, I'm either booed or cheered, depending on whether people in the room have had Arts Council funding. So I apologise if you've not been successful, and if you have, congratulations. And part of my role is to assess applications. And I've recently been on the panel for developing your creative practice. I've been on the decision panel. So as well as talking you through the official Arts Council guidance, I'm going to offer some personal reflections on what makes a strong application, and to look out for some of the pitfalls that there are. I'd also like to point out that I suffer from tinnitus, which affects me on this side. So if I'm staring at you, it's because I'm trying to see what you're saying and not, as embarrassingly happened to me recently, trying to pick you up. Very embarrassing meeting. Okay. So I just want to talk through some of our goals. We have 5 goals. Are they there? And goal 1 is our mission is great art and culture for everybody. And our first goal is around excellence. It's about the quality of the work. We want to make sure that high quality work is celebrated and practiced. And people quite often say to me, but is my work great art? Well, and I keep saying it is in the context in which it's experienced. Some people say, how can you compare a workshop for 6 people, participatory workshop, compared to something that's happening at the Royal Opera House? And I say, for the 6 people in that workshop, that is great art. That has the potential to be life-changing. And as I would contest, probably more than going to see the opera. So actually, it's about the context in which it's experienced. So remember that what you're producing is great art. Goal 2 is about the everyone part of that statement. And it's very important to us that we get our art out to as wide a group of people as possible. It's part of my job as the relationship manager for diversity to really make sure that as many people produce the work and see the work as possible. Those 2 goals are what we expect people to meet when they're applying to project grants. So it's about quality work that's going to meet an audience. We have 3 other goals which aren't covered by the grants I'm talking about for you, but they're around making sure the arts sector is resilient and environmentally sustainable, about ensuring that the leadership and workforce in the arts are diverse and appropriately skilled. We want to make sure that there is a good tranche of leaders to take the sector forward. And we also have a goal around children and young people, that high quality work is produced by young people and for young people. And we do a lot of work with schools because that's a really good way at meeting every group of society is by going into schools. You can hit every kind of diversity by going in through schools. And of course, that's the artists of tomorrow as well. So that's our existing 10-year strategy. It's just about to change. I think in 2020 it changes. Some of you may have been involved in the consultation for putting the new strategy together, because we've not just asked people in the sector, we've asked lots of people who aren't interested in the arts, who don't work professionally in the arts. What do you think Arts Council should be doing? So it's not just more of the same. How can we really reflect what people in this country want? So we have 3 main areas of funding that we give out. Funded organisations, that's our national portfolio organisations, Chapel Arts being one of them. And we think it's very important that we directly fund organisations at a variety of scales across a wide range of art forms, because then we've got a bedrock of quality arts right across the country. We then have our development funds, and they're to meet gaps in where we're not funding things. We've had a touring grant recently for people to try and develop touring circuits. We've had an Artist International Development Fund for people that want to develop their work by having visits abroad. We have capital grants where people want to develop existing buildings. And we've had grants recently around philanthropy, people really wanting to know more about fundraising, which taps into that sustainability goal that we have. But I think the ones that are really key for you and probably what you want to know about is project grants and developing your creative practice. And project grants, it used to be grants for the arts. Did anyone apply to grants for the arts? Heard of that? So it's very similar, but it's a new iteration of grants for the arts. And we want really one-off good ideas that we can fund. This is where we sort of throw out to the sector and say, what have you got? What are your good ideas? And this makes it a really exciting funding programme. Someone said to me the other day, it's the magic of project grants. We can be really responsive as well to these small interventions that people have. And the range of ideas and innovation and things that come through is absolutely staggering. The sector's changed quite a lot over the last 10 years, and we've tried to change project grants to reflect that. So we're now including museums can apply for that, and also much more focus on digital work. 10 years ago, we really didn't understand all the exciting work that was coming. So we've looked much more at what's happening in the digital world. And then developing your artistic or creative practice, that came out of a gap that's really not being covered by project grants. Several different sectors, literature, visual arts particularly, find it really difficult to get grants for development. A lot of artists wanting to concentrate on their development, writers wanting time to write, and put up in competition against some of the other project grants, they were finding it really hard to get a success. So we've created the Developing Your Creative Practice strand to really respond to that, to allow artists time to focus on their development rather than delivering a project. Any questions before we move on?
So it might be a preemptive one, but it's worth knowing. Could you just, at some point tonight, will you be talking about how far in advance we should be looking to apply to these?
Okay, if I don't mention it, make sure I do, but I hopefully have that in my notes. Thank you. Anybody else before we move on? Okay. I'm guessing you're all interested in applying for funding, so we'll look at these two funding streams. Okay. So there are major differences between these two different strands. So I'll talk you through them. The existing project grants, which is very much like the grants for the arts. So this is the model that we already have. I'll stand here. It's open to anyone who's using art in their work. So artists, arts organisations, but you might be a local council or a school and you're working on a project that has art involved in it and you can apply. You don't have to say, I'm a professional artist. It's about anybody using art in their work. And it's open to individuals and organisations. It has to benefit people in England. We're Arts Council England, so there has to be a benefit. And those can be the people working on the project, but we like the work to be seen. We won't fund just the production of work that doesn't have a potential audience. So there has to be an idea that there will be people engaging with the work at some level. Not necessarily during the creation of it, but you can see that ultimately there will be an audience for it. The grants go from £1,000 to £100,000. Though I have to say, there's not many grants that go through at £100,000. If your suddenly ears prick up and thinking, great, I'm going to get a project through for £100,000, there's not many go through at that level. But we do give them out. And your projects can be anything up to 3 years in length. There's not many that go through at 3 years, but that's generally because people don't articulate the project very well. But we can fund a period of up to 3 years. We can't fund anything that's to do with your degree because Our funding comes from the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. Department for Education comes from Department of Education, so that would be crossing over. So we can't fund... No. No, because it's about an educational qualification. You can apply at any time. There's no deadlines on this. So if you want to put in an application today, or tomorrow, next week, whenever you're ready, you can put that in. We'll come into this in more detail later. Decisions for an application under £15,000 take 6 weeks to turn around. So if you put it in today, you will have a decision within 6 weeks' time. And anything over 15,000 up to 100,000, that takes 12 weeks. That might seem like quite a long time, but compared to a lot of other funding, a lot of other funders, that's quite a quick turnaround. And you can apply at any time.
Can I just ask, I mean, you may cover this later, but in terms of, you know, if you're inexperienced, you've never done it before, so like we would be, in terms of thinking about how you estimate costs.
I'll come into that. Yeah, I'll come into that in a lot of detail. Yes, so you can apply at any time unless you've already got a funding application in. So you can't have more than one application in at any one time. But other than that, you can put them in at any time. So that's a very brief summary of project grants. I'm going to go into this in a lot of detail. In terms of the developing your creative practice, this is only open to individuals, not organisations, because it's about a concentrated period of time for you to focus on your development. You need to be an early or midpoint in your practice, and you need to make a major change or carry out a period of focused development work. So it's not just the next point in your career, it's a big leap forward. It's a major change, it's a change of direction. The beneficiary is you. We're not worried about audiences at all, so you haven't got to think about who the work might be seen by, because there is no work. It's about you. So you don't have to worry about engagement. The grants go from £2,000 to £10,000. It could be for a period of up to a year. And there are 4 deadlines a year, so that there are dates by which you have to get your application in. It's not a rolling programme like the other one. And they take about 9 weeks to turn around the decisions. And you can apply for 2 rounds within a 12-month period. So if you're not successful in the first one, you can reapply. And if that's not successful, you have to wait another 6 months before you can put an application in. Any questions on that? Yes?
Can you, on the project grants, if you don't succeed, how long do you have to wait?
You could put it in the next day if you want to, but I'd suggest you make some changes.
Oh, no, right.
So,
Obviously you're not going to see it.
you, whenever you like.
You do get a bit of like...
Whenever you like.
And then you can put it in.
Yeah.
Wait 6 months.
You don't have to wait at all. Yeah, you can put an application in whenever you like.
With regards to applications, how many are successful?
About 40%.
Is it true that it's only 5 applications?
No, you can make as many as you like. For project grants, yeah. Yep. I know somebody who was successful after the 7th time. He should have got a prize for tenacity, I think.
They didn't get it awarded until the 7th time.
They didn't get an award until the 7th time. Yes? Sorry, can I just... Sorry, I can't hear.
On project grants, you won't fund any activity that's already taken place.
That's right, we can't fund anything that's retrospective.
With the DYCP, so the 9-week thing is going to make starting mine, I'm going to do it anyway, so can I start it?
Yes, but we won't fund anything, so you may have things that you want to do and then a period that you want us to pay for. You can have build-up, you can have work that's leading towards that, but we just can't pay for that bit. Again, I'll come into a lot more detail on this in a minute.
I just asked the thing about individuals. I mean, we always work with, would we be 2 individuals, or would we need to present ourselves as an organisation?
No, with the project grants, somebody has to take a lead. So if you're working together, you might put the application in, or you might, but you can just name the other person as an artist working in it. You don't have to become an organisation. Okay. Who has set up an account on the Arts Council website? How painful was it?
It's terrible. I was just going to say, it's
If you,
simple to get.
it's called Grantium, the system that we have. And if you want to know what the sector thinks of it, go onto Twitter and look at hashtag Grantium. I have to use it every day, and I hate it, but we're stuck with it. But honestly, there's a team in Manchester who will talk you through everything on the phone.
Oh, right.
So use them; they're really good. But you have to create a user account before you can put in an application. And it takes about 5 days. So even if you haven't started your application, get on the system, set up your account, and that will enable you to put in all the applications that you want to for whichever funding stream. And it'll ask you about your name, it'll ask for a login, a username, and it'll create just a very simple profile. You only do that bit once, and then we can make sure that you're on the system. Yes. If you have access issues with it, because we know it's not fully accessible, you can have access funding, and I'll come on to talk about that later. And actually, I know people who are using that because they suffer from anxiety, and I suffer from anxiety when I'm using Grantium. So if you need access support to get onto Grantium, you can have it. Okay. You get used to it. It's really not that bad. So I'm going to talk about project grants. Okay. As I said, project grants started out as grants for the arts in 2003. It's a really light touch process. You put the application in, we assess it, it goes to panel. If you're successful, you get a funding letter, you get an offer, and then normally what happens is you get 90% of the money up front, you do the project, and when you've finished it and you've evaluated it and you send us a form back to say you've evaluated it, you get the final 10%. So you do have to think about your cash flow and how you manage that. But it's a very light touch process. We won't be interacting with you all the way through. We won't be checking up on what you're doing. It's a very light touch process. It's also about equality of opportunity. You don't ever have to have worked with the Arts Council before. You can put in an application to project grants not having had an existing relationship with. There's nothing about, people say to me, oh, you have to know somebody to get it. There's none of that. There's a real equality of access. A lot of first-time applicants are successful. We have a remit to spread the funding as widely as possible, so we do look at whether people are coming in time and time again for funding or whether they're new and try and spread it out. And I've spotted you. It's decision-based. The decisions we make are based on the evidence you supply. So I say to people, assume people at Arts Council know nothing, because we can only assess an application on what you put in it. So I might know lots about you, but if you don't put that in the application, I can't say, oh, well, I'm sure they meant to put that in, or I know from my relationship with them that they've done this, this, and this. If it's not there, I can't say we should mark them more highly. You have to put everything you want us to know about you in that application.
Is there something about you have to provide some match funding?
Yes, I'll come into that in the finance section. If I don't, challenge me on it. Okay. So, project grants, they're a really key feature of how we deliver a great art for everyone, because they contribute to goal 1 and goal 2. So that's about quality work that has an audience or people participating in it. It distributes awards of between 1,000 and 100,000, and I've said, to individuals, organisations, or people who use art in their work. We're very proud to say that we support individuals. A lot of organisations that give out funding don't. So we're really pleased about that. And as I said, with the Arts Council of England, so it must benefit people in England. Now that could be you as an artist living in England but working abroad. It could be that you as an artist creating work here are creating work somewhere else, or bringing somebody from abroad for audiences in this country. So as long as somebody, the artist or the audiences, benefit because they're in this country, then you can put an application in. Does that make sense?
Has there been a change? There's been a little change there, hasn't there? Because there was the Artist Development
Yes.
Fund for specifically for work abroad.
Yeah.
So now that's really interesting actually, because I've just done a project abroad.
Well, that's always been there, but people found it harder to get funding if they were going abroad, which is why we created Artists International. Now, that's not a separate stream anymore, but it will be covered by project grants, so you can do work abroad. Yes. Lynn?
So that's really pertinent to me. So for instance, I've got a project lined up, a residency offered, and I've asked the Irish Arts Council if they will help me get funding. But because I am Irish, but because I live in England, and I've lived in England all my life, they've said no.
Okay.
So I would not have thought I could apply to the ACE for that, can I?
So you're going to do work abroad, or
Yeah. So I'll be doing a project in.
But if you're living in England,
Yeah, I live in England.
yeah, then that's fine.
But actually, I would be showing the work over there, but my plan is to bring the work over here and show as well. So could I apply for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. So for the period of 2018 through to 2022, we've got approximately £97.3 million a year to spend. That sounds great, doesn't it, when you put it like that? When you start breaking it down to projects of between 1,000 and 100,000, it's not as many as you think. So as I said before, we have these two strands. There's projects which are under 15,000, and you get your decision in 6 weeks, or there are projects that are over 15,000, and that takes 3 months. So most of the project applications we get are for the under 15. About 80% of the projects we get are under 15, and they take up about 80% of the budget. And then, yeah, the other way around for the others. The success rates are roughly the same. We've got about a 40% success rate at the moment for both funds. And that's not because we don't get lots of good applications. It's because we get so many great applications. We can only fund 40% of all the stuff that comes in. And it's heartbreaking in some decision meetings because you absolutely want things to go through, but you don't have enough funding. So it's a real shame. So I urge people to resubmit. If you've not been successful, don't throw up your hands in the air and say, bloody Arts Council, I'm never engaging with them again. Come back in, resubmit, because we have a really high proportion of applications that are successful when they come in for a resubmission. And you can do that. Maybe you have to change the dates, maybe you have to do a little bit of tweaking. Look at the feedback if you're getting feedback, and just send it back in, because there's a really high success rate.
Are there any subjects you shy away from?
No. No, we like to fund subversive revolutionary work.
Very good at shying away from subjects.
No, there was a great project just a couple of years back where an artist who's in a wheelchair created clay figures made from the silt of the River Parrett in Bridgewater, near where she lives, and she made it on a boat on the Thames. They were made and then they were fired, and then they were taken on a boat outside the Houses of Parliament and milled to dust and dropped in the water. And there were a certain number, and they represented the amount of people that she had estimated had died from the government's austerity measures. Very creative. No, there's nothing that we won't fund. It's about the quality, not the subject matter. I'm all for a bit of revolution. I think artists should be challenging. That's our job, isn't it?
Because a lot of projects here will be thinking, do I go for over 15 or under 15?
Yes.
Is there a higher bar?
Yes. We'll ask you for more information. So if you go over 50, we ask for more information. It's the same questions, but the word count that you get will be more. We need a cash flow if you go over 50,000. If you go over 50,000, we want a marketing and development plan for your work. We'll also ask you to look at the risks, do a risk register. It's all in the guidance, but yes, so under 15, very light touch. Over 15, we'll ask for more.
Can I just ask what you say about eligibility? Is there any key things or mistakes that people make that render them ineligible in a way that if they paid a bit more attention they wouldn't have?
Yes, their budgets don't add up. Most of the ones that are rejected and sent straight back, it's because they put an income figure and an expenditure figure, and when you look at them, they're not the same. So that's the biggest mistake that people will make.
Saying the light touch, the under 15 grand. You go into that a bit more because that's personally what I've applied for like projects. So like when you see it, I'm more thinking of like what sort of once the 6 weeks comes out, what sort of kind of response should we?
Yeah. Okay.
Response does that?
Okay. So if you're under 15, because it's a light touch process for us as well, because we have so many to get through. Typically. 30, 40 projects a week we're assessing. And anybody who's had one of these letters probably put their eyes to the ceiling, because I know I would. You get just one line that tells you why it's been rejected. So it'll say other applications were preferred, or it'll say it showed weaknesses in relation to quality or public engagement. If you don't know what that means, get in touch with somebody at the Arts Council, talk it through with you. Ring customer services, because if it says there's weaknesses around quality, you need to go back and look at that section if you're going to resubmit. If it's talking about public engagement, look at that section before you resubmit. If it says other applications preferred, it means you were nearly there, but we ran out of money. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, as well. So I remember filling out, it was just asking for figures and stuff. I didn't have to overlay because I had all the, it was more like I submitted, but from what I remember from the application process, it asked for the figure, and I don't really remember having to regurgitate the information I had before me, because I expected to fill out the whole spiel and things to make sure, but it didn't ask for that much.
No. So the application form is what you will be assessed on. What you put into the application form is what the assessment, that's what we'll do. At the end, there will be an evaluation document after you've finished, which we send you, and we'll ask for income and expenditure and whether you think you were successful. You don't have to be. Actually, a lot of work is about testing something out. You might say, I want to try this. Did it work? Actually, it didn't, but this is why I know it didn't.
You said to ring somebody about your feedback on the under 15,000. Will they talk specifically about yours?
No, but they can give you more information about what the feedback means. So if you need the feedback unpacking, they won't be able to go and look at the application, but they will be able to unpack it a bit for you. Yes, all of our assessment criteria is available on the website. So if I'm assessing an application, I will look at the criteria is exactly matched to the guidance. So if you download the guidance, it will tell you what we're asking for. And then when I mark each section, I will say this has potential. It's not met the criteria. It's met the criteria. It's met the criteria strongly, or it's met the criteria in an outstanding way. So it's potential, not met, strong, outstanding. So it's not actually numerical points, but those will be given to the application. And every application, every assessor is QA'd. So a number of our applications is looked at to check that we are being consistent over the whole country in terms of our marking. Yes, that's all available on our website.
Great. Last time I did an application, I received some feedback on my first application, and it was like a 3-line thing saying to me, you were not successful this time, but if you address this point and this point and this point, we would reconsider your application. So then I was able to reprocess and was successful second time. So what you're saying now is that we don't really get such a detailed
Under
feedback.
15, you get very little feedback. If it's over 15, you will get a copy of the whole assessment, which could be 6 pages. And you get a lot of detail. And when I'm assessing, and what we're encouraged to do, is you might say the application showed this, this and this. However, if the application had included this and this, it would have been stronger. and it gives you really clear pointers as to the things that we think were missing from that application, the information that would have helped us make a better assessment of it. Any questions? A couple of people looking slightly confused by that. No?
I'm just wondering if it's worth applying for over 15 to just get the assessment and then apply for under 15 to shoot the
You could do it how you want. People often say to me, how much should I apply for? And it's a question of what's your time scale, because for some people 12 weeks is too long to wait and 6 weeks is what they need. And I say, how much money do you need to do this well? Because actually there's nothing that says you got to do your first application under 15. If you want to come in at 18 or 20, I would not recommend your first application you come in for 60 grand. But you know, if it's going to cost you 20 and not 15, then come in for 20 and not 15. Don't scrimp on it just to try and get under 15.
But just ask, when you said about something matching the criteria in an outstanding way, could you give a real life example?
It's difficult for me to think about that at the moment, but just sometimes you're as an assessor, you're constantly thinking ahead as to what you know you need answers to. And you look at some applications and you think, I wonder if, oh, it's there. I wonder if, oh, they've done that. You know, and actually, it's absolutely, it's really coherent. It bounces off the page at you, just the level of work and partnership and how well thought through it is, how coherent it is. I can't think of an example. Outstanding, I've only ever, in 8 years, marked 3 applications outstanding. There's a lot of METs, and MET is good enough. People go, why is it only MET? MET means you meet the standard. You know, strong is good, but outstanding is very hard to get. It's very hard to get. I mean, the other thing is to say about the budget. Previously we used to have a certain fixed amount every week, and whether it was 12 applications or 30. Now what we do is we look at the total amount of the applications that week. We add that up, we take about 40% of that amount, and that's what we can award. So people would say, oh, but, you know, I came in for an application one week and there were only 5 people to compete against, and another week there were 12. So, you know, I'm less likely to get it because you run out of money. We shift the budget according to the size of the applications that are coming in, so you shouldn't be penalised in that way. It's about arts activity in grant, what was grants for the arts, but because we've expanded it, because we've taken on a museum's remit, we've taken on libraries, that actually accredited museums can apply for project grants as well. National activities in there for really work that travels all over the country, that becomes a national activity. We cover that in here. The budget's gone up to 97.3 million a year, and we've really increased the focus on digital work and creative media, and we've produced new guidance and a new application form. If anyone's seen our guidance, I think it's fab, but being the Arts Council, I think it's 78 pages long. So if you just want to look at the questions, there's an easy read version where you can download that, and it will just give you the questions and the word counts, rather than the nuanced, very thorough document that we have around guidelines. So, any questions on that bit?
Can I just say a bit of feedback to the Arts Council? I don't think you do it now, but at one stage you had a very big, lovely pink round kind of logo behind on the guidance or something, and every time I printed it off, I was panicking because of the amount of ink it used, because artists are so poor. You know, if you have to print off the stuff, and I just thought, that's something they could really think about.
So email me about that, a less graphic intense guidance.
Yeah, because, you know, when we all print it
and
off,
yeah, blue pages and yeah.
Printing ink, if you're a freelance artist on your own,
I get that. I get that. Yeah, I don't print stuff off at home either, because I have to sort of store it all up and go into the office, because I agree. If you'd just like to email me that, then I can forward that. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. So who can apply? Well, hopefully you can all see yourselves represented in that. As I said before, it's anybody using art in their work. You don't have to consider yourself a professional artist, but it's artists and arts professionals. It's people working in arts organisations. It's people working with the arts in other organisations. So there's a huge number of people who can apply to project grants. Hopefully you can all see yourselves in there. Yes?
I probably know the answer. Is there a bias towards visual arts?
When we have decision panels, one of the other hard things that we have to do is balance who we give the funding to. So if you're a theatre organisation working in Bristol, it's doubly hard to get funding because every meeting that we have to make decisions, there are 3 or 4 applications from people in Bristol making theatre, and we can't give them all our money. So at every single meeting, we have to say, these are the ones that we really want to fund. And then we say, look at the art form. Look across music, literature, visual arts, dance, theatre, creative media. There are probably others that I've missed. Look at geography. We can't just fund everything in Bristol. We must make sure that we're funding stuff in Devon, Cornwall, Dorset, Gloucestershire, Hampshire. So no, if you look at our figures, I would say the visual arts is actually slightly under average in the same way that literature, I think literature and visual arts have a slightly less good success rate than some of the other things, but we really try to balance across all the art forms and geography and size of organisation. Is this an individual? Is this a small organisation? Is this a big organisation? Is this somebody working locally? Is this somebody touring nationally? And we have to try and balance that as well, which is why their meetings take so long. So is there anyone who can't apply? Actually, who can't apply for a project grant? NPOs? No, I'm afraid you can't if you're an NPO. And somebody said to me a while back, we're doing a nice landscaping project. Could we apply for that? And I said, well, we're the Arts Council of England, not the Landscaping Council of England, so that the clue's sort of in the title. So it's all about the art. So what kind of activity would you fund? Again, I won't go through all of these. There's some key ones. Events, performances, exhibitions, festivals, carnivals, workshops, participatory work, fantastic participatory work. Research and development, you want a period of development. Commissions, asset purchase. Maybe there are things that you need to buy to carry out your work. That can be part of an application as well. Building renovation, making work, touring, residencies, lots of different things going on there. We can fund all of those. Organisational development, if your organisation is at a stage where you think, actually, we need a bit of time to consider where to go next, then we can fund a period of development on that as well to look at the options for you. So lots of different types of activity. Any questions?
I take these are outside the project grants, or are you talking about these within?
This is project grants.
So
this is all for project grants.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
For example, that R&D can only be part of the grant.
no, it could be the whole thing.
How do you build product engagement?
Very good question. What you do is say that although within the life of this project there will be no audience, ultimately, if we tour this work, if we produce this work, we think the audiences will be. So you're showing that you know who you think should engage with it if the work is then produced. We get a good proportion of R&D grants go through. So what can't we fund? Well, anything that's not about art, anything that has no potential public benefit. So it's just what you were saying, Sarah. It's about the potential benefit, not that it has to happen during the life of the project, but potentially there is a benefit for that. As you were saying earlier, we can't fund statutory further or higher education course-related activity. Nothing that's already happened, general running costs and overheads, or fundraising or profit-making activity. Someone said, can we fund a concert then, and we'll then give the money to charity? And we're like, well, why are we giving you money to raise money to then give to a charity? That's not what we can do. It's about investing in the arts. You might want to buy some equipment. It has to be new, unless it's an instrument, because, there's some fabulous old instruments out there. Touring projects, if you're touring all over Europe but not in England, it has to be no more than 15% happening outside England. International activities where there's no benefit to the people in England, so it's what we were saying earlier about travelling abroad. And where this is a real difficult area for us at the moment, but we cannot fund film because the funding comes from elsewhere. So we cannot fund the creation of a film with a narrative, a documentary, that kind of work. But lots of artists use film within their projects. So we have artist films, films for evaluation. That's fine, but just call it digital art. Because as soon as we see the word film in an application, everybody panics and has to look it up and see exactly what it is. So you can use art as a medium within your arts project, but we cannot fund the creation of films. Because I wouldn't expect anyone's project just to spontaneously appear on the day that they say in their application it's going to happen. You need to do that preparatory work. You need to meet people, have those meetings, do your background research, but you don't put in your application that you want funding for that bit. So there's a section in the application form that says, tell us about the work that's been done to date. And then you can tell us about everything that you've done to prepare to get to this point. And then this is the bit that I'm asking for the money for. And that bit has to be not happened yet. We're clear on that.
The idea of finding a fee that will give us an excess of that, is that profit making in your definition of it?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. What we're asking for you is your income to match your expenditure for the life of that project. But of course you're going to want to charge people for tickets or work that you're delivering. You know, that's fine, but you need to use that in your budget. So I'm going to talk through the application form here. But before you start, the best thing you can do is get a copy of our guidance, which hopefully will have had all the high definition graphics removed, so it's nice and easy to print, and you can read that through. There is nothing better in terms of preparation than reading that document. If you just want to look at the questions, download the easy read version. But the 78 pages or whatever it is so nuanced. It tells you everything you are ever going to need to know, and probably more than you need to know. It's got links to various other documents. It's really, really thorough, and I think I think it really is good and easy to read. So check that out before you do anything else. It's really important. And then you can look at our website if you have particular issues and you don't know what we mean by public engagement, or you've never done a budget before, or you want to know about evaluation. We have examples, we have videos of people talking about it. It's all there in our information pages. Everything you will ever need to know. And if you still don't understand it because you've not seen one before, why would you? Ring up customer services and ask them to talk it through on the phone. That's what they're there for. So if you're not sure if you're eligible, if you want any advice or you want help with this wretched Grantium thing, talk to customer services. And then relationship managers, that's my job. We also do events like this where we talk to people about what's going on. And sometimes there's an opportunity for follow-up as well. If you've got a particular project you want to discuss, maybe we can meet, maybe we can chat over the phone or have a Skype meeting to talk it through in more detail. And those are some of the follow-up options that you have. But customer services are really, really good, really helpful. If you have any issues with accessing Grantium, then we provide access support. Our guidance is available in large print. We don't do it in Braille at the moment, but we do have it in large print. And we know that Grantium is not accessible. We know people have trouble using it, people with visual impairments, dyslexia, and other issues such as anxiety. So if you have an issue accessing Grantium, we will pay somebody to help you get your application onto our system because we know it's not equally accessible. So that doesn't mean that we will help you have somebody develop your application, because everybody has to develop their application. But if you cannot write your application, if you need help to focus to write it, if you need help to get it onto our online system, then we can pay for somebody to help you do that. It's very easy to set up. When we started doing this, I think people who bought Grantium should know this, but when we started doing this, I think the first year we spent about 40,000. Last year we spent over £170,000 on access support. So it's there. It's the only budget I know at Arts Council that does not have a bottom to it. So if you need access support, ask for it. If you have any meetings with us, we can support note takers, BSL interpreters, and personal assistants for one-to-one meetings. You know, it's a very good system. It's very easy to set up. All you have to do is email me, tell me that you want somebody to work with you on this. You tell me the name of the person you want to work with me on this, and I contact them and set up a purchase order. If you don't know who you want to work, I will find somebody, or we can look for somebody for you. That takes a bit longer, but it's very quick, and we pay them properly, so you don't have to ask a friend to help you out. You know, it's a really good system. Do use it. And we can also, if you make your application in BSL, because some people have, we can actually pay to have that translated as well. No, we don't ask anybody to prove what their disability or condition is. We take it all on trust. It isn't about translating it from other languages. This is only about disability rather than being foreign language. It's not about whether you can access a computer. We can't pay for a computer. It's actually about, we'll get somebody to put it onto a computer, but we can't buy a computer for you. We've had a really interesting range of access needs. And I had somebody a few years back who wrote to our office in Manchester, and it then came back to me to say, with a doctor's letter saying that they won't engage in reciprocal communication, found our website really difficult to engage with, and also will not reveal their identity because of their mental health issues, won't reveal their identity. So they've changed their name to Anonymous. So that's their real name. They sent me a scan of their bank card. Now, and then it's like, so how do they put in an application when the basic details on where you set up your profile is your name and address? They wouldn't reveal that. So how are they going to speak to somebody about what they want to go onto Grantium? Because they won't engage in. I thought it was like an exam question. You know, Ruth, how are you going to deal with this? So we actually set up. I wrote to them and said, you know, actually, would it help if you had somebody else to work with? How do you want to communicate with them? Is it through telephone? Is it letters? Is it meeting them face to face? And in the end, they decided that they only wanted to deal with me. And we had 3 meetings. They arrived, they cover their face as well, so they were quite scary when they turned up because nobody else knew who they were. They were wearing a pillowcase and ski goggles over their face, completely disguised, so I didn't know if they were male or female. And then we had a 4-hour meeting, passing post-it notes back to and forward to each other. You know, in terms of my time and their time and somebody else, it costs a lot of money. But actually, I did keep thinking someone was going to jump out and say it was a piece of performance art or something. But they put in a really good and interesting application in, and they were really genuine. But it was a really interesting challenge. So how do you meet that need for somebody with Asperger's and mental health issues and other things? So we do try. A lot of people, if they're on a benefit, don't want to apply for funding for themselves because it stops the benefit, and then you have to restart your benefit again when the grant is finished. And just recently, somebody has applied for developing your creative practice. They have a learning disability, and we've agreed that an arts organisation that they know very well and have a relationship with can put in the application for them, and if they're successful, we'll manage the grant for them, which is the first time we've ever done this and is a real breakthrough. Application form. I'm just conscious of the time. So the basics on the application form, we have 4 areas that you need to cover. As I was saying, that's quality, public engagement, who is going to engage with the activity and how, finance, we want to know about your budget, your experience of financial management, and whether you're going to pay your artists fairly. And then in terms of management, it's where's it taking place, who's leading it, how will it be managed. And lots of people say, why do we ask about finance and management? We're distributing £97.3 million a year of public money. We have to be really accountable. We have to know that the people we're giving it to are who they say they are and can do what they say they can do. We have to be really confident about that, which is why we ask all of those questions. And again, as you were saying earlier, the amount and type of information requested increases if you go over 15,000 and then over 50,000. So we'll ask you for more information. So basic details. We ask for a brief summary of what you're doing, and we really want to know what kind of activity you're doing, what's the art form, who's going to be involved. It's only 600 characters. It's a snapshot. Lots of people will try and go into detail about how they're delivering it, but it's just a snapshot of what you're doing. It's the absolute basics. So what's the art form? What's the activity? Who's it aimed at? That kind of thing. Also, every project is about something will change. Something is going to change as a result of you doing this. So it's trying to articulate what that change is. Yeah, we want to know when it's going to start and when it's going to finish as well. And if you have any objections to having funding from the National Lottery, some people don't like it because it's gambling. You may have a religious objection to receiving money from the lottery, in which case we can find it from another part of our budget. So in terms of quality, there's a question in there that says, tell us about your artistic work. And this is a real chance to show off and tell us everything you want us to know. You remember I said earlier, assume the Arts Council knows nothing. So tell them everything that you want to know about your achievements and your recent work. Really, really sell it to us. So we're looking for a clear idea of why you're applying. Is it a good idea? And I've said before about the quality. It doesn't have to be the best quality. It has to be the right quality to deliver this project. Are the people you're working with the right people? Have they got the right skills and experience to deliver this project? Not that they're the best in their field, but they are the right people. And I'll just finish this section. There's something as well about development. Because this is a lottery good cause, that's where the funding comes from. There has to be some kind of development in what you're doing. So we can't fund you to do what you always do or do the same. It must be about something that's changed or moved on or progressed in some way. So we say to you, why is this important to your artistic development? And you need to tell us why it's important, but also is it going to have an impact on anybody else, other people that you're working with? I think that's really key. And then we ask who's involved. Sometimes people will just put the name of the person, and other times you get a great long paragraph, really good information. It gives you a really clear rationale why you're working with that person, and that really helps flesh out the application. And if it's over 50,000, we want to know, is there a wider impact to this project? How is it going to affect the sector or other people? If we say who's involved, then you also get to say whether they're confirmed or not. And if we know that there's this whole issue around people can't confirm unless they know they've got the funding. So say who you think you want to work with, that you've spoken to, but you can just put penciled rather than confirmed. And if you don't know who they are, then what you want to say is, this is why there is quality in the process that we will take to choose them. So you are going to show what the criteria are for choosing those people so that we know that they will be the right people. So you're just giving us as much information as you can to show that there's quality in the people who are involved. I'll come back to you in a second. There's something in here, there's no criteria around whether we like it or not. Nowhere are we ever asked to say whether we like this piece of art. It just doesn't come into it. It's about you telling us about the quality and who's involved. It doesn't say the relationship manager likes this or not. A number of times I've funded work, so this is an amazing project, but it's really not my thing. Every time a project comes up that's to do with physical theatre, they say, Ruth, how do you feel about this one? And I just sigh, because it's not me. You know, the history of the Somerset Coal Canal told in roller skating and trapeze. Ruth, how do you feel about this one? You know, but these things go through, not because it's nothing to do with whether I like it or not. So we won't, there's nothing about that. Don't ever worry about that. We ask for you to tell us about what you've done. If you put a website link in, we're duty bound to go to it. But point us to the right page. Tell us why you know, if you just put the home page and it's got 16 pages, we don't know where we're going. So put the right link in to take us to the page that shows the work. With some applications, you can attach a document that has a limited size, but if you embed, top tip, if you embed a website link, to take us to that page. We have to go and look at it, and we'll have to watch the whole thing. On the quality side, I just want to go to some top tips as an assessor. Tell us what you want to do. Don't second guess what you think the Arts Council wants. The number of times people say, tell me what to do. And I don't know what you want to do. The whole point is you tell me what you want to do. Articulate what you expect the change to be. And also, I can't do what you do. I'm a funder, I'm an assessor, I'm not an artist. I cannot do all the exciting, innovative things that you do. You are the experts in what you do, so write from that perspective. Write with that confidence. Write in your own voice, not art speak. The biggest single thing that I write on applications is, what is it? Because it's so packed full of jargon and buzzwords. I have to unpick it in my head and think, I have no idea what the art is. I have no idea what the artistic outcome is. It sounds amazing, but I know what the words mean on their own, but I don't understand what it means in a paragraph. So please remember that you are writing for a real person. Remember that you are writing for another human being, and they're going to have to read it. And when you write in your own voice, when we talk about our work, we all get motivated and interested, and it's easy to tell somebody about your work. And people pick up a pen and start writing this weird pseudo-intellectual art speak that nobody really understands. And so if you find it difficult to talk about your work, because maybe you're working in a visual medium, to write about your work, talk about it to other people. Get them to tell you what they heard. Record yourself talking about the work. And try and put some of that into your application. Give as much detail about your partners as possible. As I was saying, you've got an opportunity there that talks about artists. Put in as much detail as you can about them in that section. Website links, information that says, this is why we've chosen these people. No, not at all. And evidence your claims. Lots of people will say, oh, I've managed projects. And you go, name them. I've managed big budgets. Well, tell me, how much were they? Come on, you know this stuff. Tell us, put all the evidence in. I think that's really important. If you are individuals working collaboratively on a project, one of you has to be the lead, and one of you puts in the application on your behalf and names the others as partners. That's the way to do it. Well, it doesn't matter, you can do it on your own. You can work on your own. It depends what it is you're doing. It's what's relevant to you. So say you're working together on a project and you're doing your own work. If you put it in for the joint one, you could put it in for your own one at the same time. Otherwise, you can't, if you're working together, you can't put your own one in until the other one's had a result, which is why, you can put it under your own name. So you can name NPOs as partners. Why wouldn't you? They've got lots of skills and expertise, but they cannot be the lead. I just want to read you part of an application that I really liked. Because it's somebody speaking in their own voice. It's somebody really clearly telling me what they want to do. I won't read the whole thing, but there's just bits of it that I really like because it's quite informal. So they want to do something around storytelling. So what are your aims? Haunted is my autumn tour. It's a response to the regular demand for ghost stories towards the end of October. Previous autumn tours have focused on witches, ghouls, shape changers and other dark and gruesome motifs. Spring tours are a chance to deal with lighter topics and broader mythology. Haunted will be a collection of ghost stories carefully selected to have a plot that goes beyond we saw a ghost and then we found out that somebody died, and the ever popular somebody died and now there's a ghost. There will, of course, be plenty of creaking, howling wind and people unnecessarily wandering around in the dark alone. After all, if you're going to give the people what they want, you'd better deliver the basics of the genre. My aim is to do a show with a broad appeal that brings people in, but despite its superficial promise, gives them a rich story experience. How are you going to do your publicity? I need to increase my publicity. Up to this point, I've designed posters, but have relied on venues to print them and put them up, which doesn't always happen. I send them out hard copy, and they're more likely to get them out and their audience in. So, what else does he say? something interesting about the work. Psychologists have discovered our brains treat active imagination the same as lived experience. Stories about death and the afterlife help us process our emotions and come to terms with our losses. A tale well told of the fictional departed can be a cathartic experience, releasing repressed emotions connected to real bereavements. For other folk tales provide a rehearsal for frightening or unusual situations, the protagonists offering solutions and behavioural models for fear-filled encounters. I have an email list, a gig list on my Reverberation page and my website. I lead up to a tour with relevant posts and a WordPress blog. I use a Facebook where I have 1,120 followers on the Travelling Talesman page. I create Facebook events for each gig. I share the tour dates for a number of storytelling and other related groups. The venue puts up posters. Some fans will put them up too. There's more to it than that. But can you see it's really conversational? It's not Arts Council. It's not these buzz phrases and long language. It's just somebody talking about their work, and I really understand it. Public engagement. This is what we want to know about. Who will engage with the activity? It could be going to an event, it could be taking part in an event, volunteering, working with an artist or group of artists, or helping to make a decision in the arts activity. And as somebody said earlier, some people will have work that has no audience, that has nobody engaging in it. That's fine. You just need to tell us who ultimately will engage with it in the long term. But we really want to know, is your target audience clear? So when we say who will engage, don't just say, oh, everybody comes to the arts or everybody likes the visual arts. Could it be geographical, people within a 5-mile radius? Could it be a particular age group? Could it be a particular demographic? Could it be people with a particular interest in your kind of work? Those are all very specific things. So it could be children, BME participants, jazz fans. You can really start to be quite specific about your audience. We want to know how people will engage. So what will they be doing? How will their engagement manifest itself? And how do you reach these people? What is your marketing going to be? And it doesn't have to be the biggest marketing plan. It doesn't have to be the most expensive. It's what's right to get to those people that you've identified. That's what we want to see, a real coherence between the groups of people you want to get and how you're going to get them. So in terms of top tips, estimate the numbers realistically. Sometimes you look at an application and think, I have no idea how they're going to get that many. If we only funded the biggest audiences, we'd just fund lots of free firework displays with concerts. And that's not what we're about. We will fund stuff that has 6 people in the audience. So just be realistic. It's not about the biggest. Just be realistic. And don't overhype your digital figures. When we talk about how many people are going to engage with the work online, that's not seeing a marketing email. That's not engaging with the work. And it's fine not to have anybody engaging with the work digitally, but are you putting out videos? Is something going on YouTube or Vimeo? Is there something on the website? It's about engaging with the work, not the marketing. And again, evidence your claims. People might say, oh, we're going to engage with 100,000 people online, but they don't tell us how. They just make this bald statement. They might say, oh, everybody likes to come to the arts. Not, my target audience is people aged 25 living in the Andover area. And so it's answers to these questions. And a lot of the time, the benefits happen beyond the life of the project. So and we're not paying for you to evaluate beyond that time. So there's just something about you clocking that. So if you apply again, you've got that information. But we only want to know about the life of it. In terms of finance, I've seen applications turned down for being too small as well as too big. You can look at an application and say, people can't achieve that on that money. It's just not possible. So think really carefully about what you're asking for. And as somebody pointed out earlier, with Arts Council applications, you have to find at least 10% of the budget yourself. We won't fund any more than 90% of the project. So you need to find that for yourself. So the bigger the project, the more money you've got to find. And we want to know about your experience in managing budgets. And if you don't have experience, make sure that you work with somebody who does. That's fine. Put them in as one of your partners. And we want to know how your budget's been calculated. So a well-estimated budget is really important. Put everything that you need in there and really thoroughly research what your figures are going to be. That's very important. But it's really important that you do pay yourself. And we generally look at artist newsletter guidelines on payment for artists. I think it's anything from £150 to £300 a day. You'd have to check it out. So in terms of the income, that can be in-kind support as well. So if you start to think about, is somebody giving me travel for free, or mentoring, or give me some of their time, or letting me have a rehearsal room, or materials, when you cost those up, they very quickly add up and can contribute towards that 10%, because support in kind counts towards that 10%. But in terms of top tips, I think it's really important that you budget realistically to deliver a project to the right standard. If somebody came in and didn't pay themselves anything...
No, I mean, I'm not saying not anything, but if you're really respecting the guidance of a daily allowance, it doesn't happen.
Can I just say that I worked with a composer, quite a well-known composer, and I'm quite an old artist, so my rate of pay would be sort of quite an experienced one, and he was double mine.
Yeah.
And it went through.
It went through.
He's a very talented man.
Yeah. You see what consultants charge as well.
Yeah.
Consultants charge a huge amount of money. I'm sorry, I haven't got that far down the thing. So, estimate as accurately as you can. I'm always suspicious of applications where if you read down the budget, it says marketing £1,000, travel £500, admin £1,000. Somebody hasn't done their research. So look into that and estimate really accurately. I'm also really suspicious of applications that come in for exactly 15,000 or 14,990. In terms of what you ask the Arts Council for, this is how much my project will cost. This is how much I'm getting from other sources. Take one from the other. The bit left over, that's what you ask the Arts Council for. Not, oh look, they're offering 15,000. Let's ask for that. So don't just ask for the maximum amount. In terms of the in-kind support, in terms of the income, that 10%. If you can just get £100 of actual income towards that project, it makes a real difference. It shows that somebody is investing money. It's not just in-kind support.
Right. What if you've done everything, you've done your budget, you've done it all, and it comes to 14,500, and then you think, okay, I can manage to bring to this in my own way £1,500. Am I still applying for a 15 grand one, or am I going up to the next level?
If you need that to deliver it to that standard and you can wait the 3 months, I'd go up beyond 15,000.
Oh, would you?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's
Also,
confusing to you guys, doesn't it?
also because in the over 15,000 meetings, if you've got lots of projects coming in at 60, 70,000, there's always that little bit of money left over that's sort of 20, 25 grand. So, applications that come in at the lower end stand a good chance, I think. Okay, I'm just ploughing on because I don't want to go beyond the time. So management, we want to know if you can successfully manage the project. We want to know where it's taking place, the experience you or your partners have had of managing a similar sized project. And as somebody was saying earlier, what do you do about the work that's happened before? There's this whole question about what planning and preparation have you done? And we really want to know about that. And then we want a timeline to go in it as well. And do fill out the timeline. Just 2 lines to say it's going to start and finish is not enough. We want to have it broken down by all those different activities. And if you're over 50,000, we'll ask for a risk assessment as well. So in this section, we ask you to evaluate whether you've been successful or not. You don't have to be. Some of this is about risk-taking and R&D. Not every project has to work. But right at the beginning, you remember when I said there was that 600 character box on a summary of what you want to do? When you're evaluating, you want to evaluate against that aim. The number of times people say they're going to do something, and then when it comes to evaluation, they come up with all these questionnaires and things, and they're not checking whether they're evaluating against their aim. Have they been successful? What's the change you want to see? And then how do you know if you've made that change? So if you want to deliver 3 workshops, how do you know if they've been successful? They were delivered. If you want to deliver sell-out workshops, how do you know if they've been successful? Well, they were delivered and we've got the ticket sales. If you want to deliver workshops about changing the perception of homelessness, well, you need to deliver the workshops, you need to measure people's perception of homelessness at the beginning of the workshop and at the end to see if there's a change. So you see how what it is you say you want to do will affect how you evaluate it, the questions that you ask. Okay, I'm going to whiz through developing your creative practice. This is the new fund. It's quite small by comparison. It's only 3.6 million. And we know that being an artist is difficult, being an individual artist is difficult. To give yourself the time to develop, to experiment, to establish yourself, that time is really crucial. But people need to earn a living to do that. So this is why we've introduced this fund, to allow people to invest in a period of time around their development. There's very limited opportunities for people to get involved in research and development or to have this period of developing their practice. So we think it's really important, but it's about professional artists really not just saying this is the next step in my career or this is a project that I want to deliver, but this is a change in direction or an opportunity that's going to really take me forward, really move my practice on in a different direction. And it's really key that you get that. It's not about delivering a project. I've been on the panel for this, and we've had some amazing projects come in, some fantastic ideas, but they've been projects. So it's not about delivering a project, it's about a particular period of time where you focus on you, what you want to do, and how you are going to develop. And you really need to articulate what that change is going to be from where I am to where I'm going to be at the end of it. It's not about buying your way onto an existing course. It's about really focused, individual, tailored period of development for you. And I think those are things that are really key. I also think it's really important to say, why now? Why is this important to me now? That will make a really big difference as well. Yes?
Start in a new direction or a course to study a particular skill?
Yes, but if it's a course that you can just buy off the shelf, is that bespoke? So what we'd expect to see a course as part of a much greater period of development. So there's mentoring and other things in there as well. Interestingly, we had somebody recently, a guy with autism, who can't drive, but he's a really well thought of bass player, and he wanted to buy a bass guitar with a removable neck so that he could take it on the bus. And he articulated how this was going to have a major impact on his professional life as a musician, and he was awarded that, as well as some mentoring and other things as well. But yeah, it's really not about projects. Some of the things that have come in have been amazing projects, but it's not about delivering a project. There's nothing about audiences. There's nothing about needing to develop audiences or having people come and see it. It's just about you. It's about what you are going to do to take yourself forward in a new direction or catapult your career.
It's difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about learning, isn't it? And
It's a
understanding what your personal obstacles are. And we don't get much time to think about, oh, hold on, what skills do I need to learn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about moving yourself forward, not delivering a project.
Such a mindset shift.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge mindset shift because as the Arts Council, we're not asking about audiences. How often do we do that to us? Explain why now you've got this time it's important rather than... Okay, I'm just going to move on. So findings. I've been on the panel for this for the last 9 months, and it's been fascinating. But why is this the right time in your career to undertake this work? Why now? Why is it important for you in your career? So that's just what I was saying. and outline the step change that will take place. This is about a major difference, not just the next logical step in your career, but something that's really different, really going to move you forward. So say where you are now and where you think you will be afterwards. Articulate that change, spell it out to us, and make sure it's not a project. It really is about investing in you. And as I said, it's a significant opportunity in your career, not just the next logical step in your career.
Sorry, I've never done this before. If you get one grant, so let's say
you can't have them. You can't have the application in at the same time. But if you have the capacity to deliver 2 projects at the same time, that's up to you. But you can't have the application in at the same time. With developing your creative practice, you can put in 2 applications within a year. So if you're not successful, you can resubmit. That could be any time in that year, but you cannot do more than 2 applications in a year period. You could only put in a maximum of 2 applications in a 12-month period, whether it's the same one or different ones. Because there should be a once in a lifetime why not opportunity. Well, wow, here comes another once in a lifetime why not opportunity 3 months later. So actually that's what you should be thinking about. It's a real major opportunity. You can apply as far in advance as you like. So, and people say to me, well, look, I got the decision and I was turned down and I only had a week before it was supposed to start. Like, that's my fault. Actually, give yourself time. Work out where it's going to be delivered. If you've got 8 months in advance and you've got all those partnerships tied up, why wouldn't you be applying now? Because if you're unsuccessful, you've got time to resubmit. There's no maximum, but it's a trade-off between having all those partnerships and things sewn up and agreed to make the application as strong as possible versus putting it in too late. So you need to make the decision. So give yourself that time for plan B. Allow time for a resubmission. Keep a copy of your application. This Grantium thing is horrible. So I do all my assessments in Word, and then when I'm happy with them, I copy them across into Grantium. So keep a copy. Think about the word count. If the word count for a particular section is 1,000 words and you've written 30 or 500, you're probably missing a trick to sell yourself or to give us some information. As I said before, assume no one at Arts Council knows anything. Put in all the information you need and read it out loud. When we read an application, you sort of have a voice in your head, and if it's full of words that are really difficult to read or it doesn't flow, that's the same for the assessor. So just read your application out loud. Does it have a nice flow? Does it sound like you talking? Is it in your own voice? Because that will make it so much easier for the assessor. I think I've covered those things before. So what next? If you're going to put in an application, check the guidance documents on the website and the videos. Really good place to start. Any questions at all, call that customer service team. They're really great. And if you want to, if you really need more information than that, then you can book a phone call or a Skype meeting with an art form or area specialist. And hopefully I've answered most of your questions, and I really look forward to seeing some exciting and innovative applications coming in.
Thank you.
I mean, I've known the pain of not getting an Arts Council application through after 3 attempts, but I've also had 3 myself that have made an absolute change to my career and continue to inform the artwork that I make all the time, even, you know, almost 10 years ahead. So I would definitely urge you to apply. If you're CAS Associates, we're always there. We have an associate program for those of you that don't know, and you can ask us about that. But we're always there to support your CAS has a real commitment to supporting artists, and we put tonight on to do that.